Life doesn't always go as planned, but sometimes our hardest moments lead to something greater. Joseph's story is one of betrayal, hardship, and faith. Even when everything seemed against him, God had a plan. Let's dive into his incredible journey from trouble to triumph. Joseph's journey, from betrayal to blessing. Joseph was a favorite son of Jacob, and his father made no secret of it. He gave Joseph a beautiful, colorful robe, a special gift that made his brothers jealous. But what made things worse were Joseph's dreams. One day, he told his brothers, "I had a dream where we were all binding sheaves of grain in the field. Suddenly, my sheaf stood up, and all of yours bowed down to mine." His brothers were furious. "Are you saying you'll rule over us?" they mocked. But Joseph had another dream. This time, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed before me. Their jealousy turned to hatred. Enough of this dreamer, they whispered among themselves. One day, when Joseph's father sent him to check on his brothers in the fields, they saw an opportunity. "Let's get rid of him," one of them said. They grabbed him, tore off his special robe, and threw him into a dry well. Soon, a caravan of traders passed by on their way to Egypt. Instead of killing Joseph, they sold him as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. His own brothers had betrayed him. Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, a powerful officer of Pharaoh. Even though he was a slave in a foreign land, Joseph worked hard and remained faithful. God blessed everything Joseph did, and soon, Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household. But trouble was coming. Potiphar's wife noticed Joseph. She tried to tempt him every day, but Joseph refused. "How can I do this wicked thing and sin against God?" he said. One day, she grabbed his robe, but Joseph ran away, leaving it behind. Furious, she lied to her husband, accusing Joseph of attacking her. Without a trial, Joseph was thrown into prison. Even in prison, Joseph remained faithful. He gained the trust of the prison warden and was put in charge of the other prisoners. One day, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were thrown into prison. They both had troubling dreams. The cupbearer said, "In my dream, I saw a vine with 3 branches. Grapes grew, and I squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup." Joseph explained, "In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position." The baker shared his dream. "I had 3 baskets of bread on my head, but birds came and ate the bread." Joseph's face turned serious. "In 3 days, Pharaoh will have you executed." 3 days later, it happened exactly as Joseph said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph asked, "Please remember me when you are free." But the cupbearer forgot about him for 2 whole years. One night, Pharaoh had a strange dream. He saw 7 fat cows grazing peacefully. But suddenly, 7 thin cows appeared and ate them. Then, he saw 7 healthy grains of wheat, but they were swallowed by 7 dry, withered grains. None of his magicians could interpret the dream. That's when the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was quickly brought before Pharaoh. "I heard you can interpret dreams," Pharaoh said. Joseph replied, "I can't, but God can." Then Joseph explained, "The dreams mean the same thing. Egypt will have 7 years of great harvest, followed by 7 years of severe famine. Pharaoh must store food during the good years to survive the bad ones." Pharaoh was amazed. "There is no one as wise as you. You shall be in charge of Egypt. Only I will be greater than you." In a single day, Joseph went from prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt. When the famine came, people from all over traveled to Egypt for food. Among them were Joseph's brothers. They bowed before him, just as his dreams had foretold years ago. Joseph tested them to see if their hearts had changed. When he saw their remorse, he revealed himself. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery." They were terrified, expecting revenge. But Joseph smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. You meant it for evil, but God turned it for good, to save many lives." He forgave them and brought his whole family to Egypt, where they lived in prosperity. Joseph's story teaches us that even in the darkest times, God is still working. What may seem like a setback is often a setup for something greater. If you're going through struggles, don't lose faith. Your hardships today might be preparing you for something incredible tomorrow.